Huntington is making some big changes after a mass shooting. New technology helps veterans and other victims of trauma manage their PTSD. And in sports, the Ohio women's basketball team stays hot with another MAC win. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening and welcome to Newswatch, your source for all news impacting southeastern Ohio. I'm Taylor Bruck. Thank you for joining us. An Athens County man is dead after a shootout with law enforcement. 41-year-old Chad Nicolia and his wife had a dispute on Wednesday night. Officers met with the woman and accompanied her back to their home in Hockingport to retrieve some of her things. Nicolia allegedly pointed a gun at the group as they entered the home but allowed them to exit. Nicolia refused to leave the house for several hours and eventually began firing at officers. Deputies deployed gas inside the home and returned fire, killing Nicolia. Huntington is changing up the way some businesses get liquor license after a mass shooting at a hookah bar on New Year's Day.
After nearly a month, investigators are still working on tracking down Kimoni Davis, the man wanted in connection with a New Year's shooting in downtown Huntington.
I guarantee you over time, he'll be brought in.
At a news conference Wednesday, U.S. Attorney Mike Stewart said the hookah bar shooting is not indicative of trends he says are moving in the right direction in Huntington.
Since 2017, violent crime down, homicide down, robbery down.
Mayor Steve Williams vowed to make changes to make sure businesses are operating legitimately after Culture was found to be operating as a bar when it was not supposed to be. The owner of Culture, Sharon Harris, had previously pled guilty to a federal charge of maintaining a residence for the purpose of distributing heroin.
Those who are running operations that are nefarious, they're not welcome in our town.
The mayor says a new policy will require someone wanting to apply for a special permit to open a bar in the city to first apply for a liquor license with the Alcohol Beverage Control Administration. The owner would then need to show proof of the application to the Board of Zoning Appeals before the permit would be approved.
They come in saying they're having a legitimate enterprise, all as a cover for the illegitimate activity. And I really believe that this gives us an even greater opportunity to be able to prevent it from happening before tragedy strikes.
All 7 victims of the shooting have since been released from the hospital. So far, Kimoni Davis is facing 14 charges of malicious wounding and wanton endangerment. 2 inmates from a West Virginia jail are on the loose. The Division of Corrections and Rehabilitations says the 2 men removed their leg monitors in separate incidents while out on passes. Jeremy Dean Johnson and Alfred Williams were serving time at the Parkersburg Correctional Center. Johnson was serving time for breaking and entering, grand larceny, and burglary, and Williams was serving time for drug, assault, and battery charges. A neurosurgeon based in New England was killed when the plane he was flying crashed into Taylor County Monday. Dr. Thomas Kay worked with Trinity Health of New England Medical Group. NTSB investigators said he was flying to Massachusetts from Indiana. He refueled at the North Central West Virginia Airport in Clarksburg Monday afternoon. His plane crashed 10 minutes after taking off from Clarksburg. Investigators said he didn't send a distress signal, and it's not known what caused the crash. The NTSB was expected to finish collecting evidence from the highly fragmented debris field near the Marion-Taylor County line Wednesday.
I'm your forecaster, Benjamin Byers. We've had a pretty dreary weekend with cold weather in the 30s, and we will probably see a warm-up ahead. 33 in Columbus, 31 in Newark, 32 in Cambridge, 31 in New Lexington, 34 in Athens, 37 in Ripley, 35 in Marietta, 35 in New Martinsville, and 32 in Chillicothe. So overall, throughout the region in the 30s and cloudy, mostly cloudy, as we can see on here. Hour by hour for tonight, 32 degrees at 8 p.m., mostly cloudy. 10 p.m., 29 degrees, no chance of rain, and 12 a.m., 28 degrees and cold. Athens tomorrow, 41 degrees, humidity 91% chance of rain, 50%, wind east 0 to 5 miles per hour. And for the big temperature map for tomorrow, 41 in Newark, 39 in Columbus, 40 in New Lexington, 42 in Cambridge, 45 in New Martinsville, 44 in Marietta, 46 in Ripley, and 41 in Athens. And as you can see the front map, that's what's giving us all this cloudy weather, that high pressure system leaving the area. And the front map for tomorrow, as we can see, that high pressure system will move farther out of our area. And well, yes, it's been a pretty dreary weekend for us.
I see you mentioned it's warming up. Is it ever going to be really, really cold this winter?
Ohio weather sure is like no other, but we'll keep an eye on it for you.
All right, thank you, Ben. Ohio is one step closer to even better voter access and expanded opportunities for voters of color. The NAACP's Ohio conferences endorsed the Ohioans for Secure and Fair Elections initiative. The measure would automatically register people to vote when they visit the BMV. It would also require early voting locations to be open 2 weekends prior to Election Day. The conference president says he sees the measure as, quote, a necessary step to modernizing the state's elections. A possible last-minute change to eligibility guidelines in what will be Ohio's biggest school voucher program. EdChoice would help fund students from poor-performing schools to attend private school. The Ohio Senate recently approved a proposal that would shrink the list of eligible schools and expand the list of scholarships based on income. The Ohio House rejected that proposal yesterday. Both the House and Senate are now working to find common ground. Employees at a Kentucky hospital will soon be out of a job. Our Lady of Bellefonte Hospital gave out warn notices on Wednesday, conflicting with the original closing date. Employees were first told they will have jobs until September, but the warn notice says the hospital will close on March 30th. Termination of employees will take place between March 30th and April 13th, 6 months before the original closure date. Authorities say a house explosion has injured a Kentucky woman and her 7-year-old daughter. Grayson County Sheriff Norman Chaffins said the explosion happened Wednesday night at a home near Litchfield. He said the victims were sent to a burn unit in Louisville. Relatives said the woman suffered burns over her entire body and the girl was burned on her back. The state fire marshal's office is leading the investigation into what caused the explosion. More than $10,000 from a fund for the search efforts of a missing boy are set to be donated to a nonprofit. The Port Clinton Police Department announced yesterday that missing 14-year-old Harley Dilley was found dead inside a chimney across the street from his parents' home. Dilley disappeared on December 20th. A $20,000 fund had amassed for his search. That money will be used to cover funeral expenses, and the rest will be donated to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. A federal judge has set a trial date for a former Ohio Vice Squad officer accused of forcing women to have sex with him under threat of an arrest. Former Columbus police officer Andrew Mitchell is also charged with pressuring others to help cover up crimes. Mitchell is also charged with lying to federal investigators when he said he'd never had sex with prostitutes. The federal judge this week set a March 30th date for Mitchell, who has pleaded not guilty. He also pleaded not guilty to state charges that he fatally shot a woman during an undercover prostitution investigation. And coming up on Newswatch, the coronavirus is at its most deadly, and it doesn't seem like it will let up anytime soon. And the second and final day of Q&A for the impeachment trial concluded earlier. Find out what happened. Stay with us.
The first blockbuster film revered as a cinematic masterpiece.
D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, he's trying to have an effect, and one of the things you feel most strongly is fear.
Exposed as a device for propaganda.
Used as a recruiting tool by the Klan.
One of the efforts was to try to get it shut down.
We want to see the birth of a nation.
People look at this film and they say, this is what we are fighting against.
Birth of a movement.
The president's reckless activities necessitated us to introduce articles of impeachment.
They've been trying to impeach me from day one.
The state of our union.
If Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences.
PBS NewsHour coverage.
The economy is booming and America is stronger than ever before.
The 2020 State of the Union Address, Tuesday, February 4th, 9/8 Central.
These icebergs are amazing.
Journey to the icy ends of the Earth.
It just looks like Mars.
Where the secrets of the past.
We're on a beach.
We're on a beach 3 million years ago.
Hold the clues to our future.
This place is so amazing.
This is the stuff that gives us a glimpse into a past warmer world.
Humans are geology. We are impacting this planet.
Polar Extremes on Nova.
On expedition.
I'm in Mexico with a crack team of cave divers on an expedition where no one has been before. Check that out. What could possibly go wrong?
Everything could go wrong.
Zero visibility, and it's really tight. No way. It's like a river flowing underneath the water. My brain is popping. It's so much more than we expected. This is what adventure is all about.
Has declared the coronavirus outbreak a global emergency after a large spike in diagnosis. China has raised the death toll to 170. 18 countries have reported cases. Russia announced it was closing its 2,600-mile border with China, joining Mongolia and North Korea in barring crossings to guard against a new viral outbreak. Foreign evacuees from China's worst-hit region were returning home to medical tests and even isolation. India and the Philippines reported their first cases, and South Korea confirmed a case that was spread locally. Experts worry such cases may mean the virus is spreading more easily. Sources say wreckage from the helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant has been moved to Arizona. That's according to CNN affiliate KNXV, which is based in that state. The helicopter crashed in Calabasas, California Sunday. Officials say they moved the wreck to the Valley Tuesday. That's the border region around Phoenix. 9 people are dead following that crash, includes Bryant's daughter and 2 other children. Senators are posing questions to the president's lawyers and House impeachment managers for the second and final day. And as a key vote on witnesses looms, Karen Caifa is in Washington to explain.
The senator from Pennsylvania, the senator from Montana.
A new question every 5 minutes.
Senator, thank you for that question.
That's a good question.
Each bringing senators closer to a vote on whether to consider witnesses in President Trump's impeachment trial.
I have heard enough. I am ready to make that vote.
But Democrats not letting go of what defense attorney Alan Dershowitz had to say on Wednesday.
And if a president does something which he believes will help him get elected in the public interest, that cannot be the kind of quid pro quo that results in impeachment.
Lead impeachment manager Adam Schiff calling the argument constitutional madness.
The only reason you make that argument is because you know your client is guilty.
Republicans still in lockstep with the defense.
What he was talking about is rooting out corruption and fighting corruption, and that is in the public interest.
And with that, the House managers are running out of time. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is expected to move rapidly to acquit the president if that vote on witnesses is defeated.
They're going to just try to get out of this as quickly as they can.
An Iraqi military statement says joint military operations with the U.S.-led coalition to counter the Islamic State group have resumed after a nearly 3-week pause. The statement also implied that Baghdad was standing by intentions to reorganize Iraq's military relationship with the U.S. Anti-government protesters are calling for 1 million Iraqis to take to the streets on Friday. Activists said it is a last chance for the movement to build on the momentum gained after followers of the influential Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr packed up and left last week. And coming up, PTSD affects people worldwide. Find out how virtual reality could help veterans suffering from the condition. That story's still ahead.
And is there a possibility for a warm-up? And are there clearer days ahead? Find out in my full forecast. But first, here's a look at your stocks of local interest.
The president's reckless activities necessitated us to introduce articles of impeachment.
They've been trying to impeach me from day one.
The state of our union.
If Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences.
PBS NewsHour coverage.
The economy is booming and America is stronger than ever before.
The 2020 State of the Union Address, Tuesday, February 4th, 9/8 Central.
All over the country, Americans are fed up and rebelling against the politicians and the power brokers, fighting against Citizens United.
We do not believe that corporations are people.
Voter suppression.
We will never stop battling.
Can ordinary voters halt what many see as politicians rigging elections? Can it work?
The heat wave in Chicago, one of the deadliest heat waves in U.S. history.
It looked like a war zone.
This was a tragedy that should have seared itself into the mind and memory of every American, but it didn't.
Racism and poverty determined who would live and die during the heat wave.
Not really about the heat. It's about a lack of compassion on a lot of parts.
The real story is, why were people in these neighborhoods dying?
Cooked. Survival by zip code.
That's the one I contributed. I see it. I see you.
Philadelphia is the second largest Italian community outside of New York.
It smells so good in here.
Right? On a Sunday in this neighborhood, you could smell every home.
It's like symphony orchestra playing like Metallica. When the nonna says mangiare, you better eat.
No passport required.
Welcome back. I'm your forecaster, Benjamin Byers. Take a look at the satellite for right now. As we can see, Ohio mostly covered in that cloudy area. And here's a look at the 7-day forecast for the week ahead. Friday, 50%, 41. Saturday, 20%, 40 degrees. Sunday, 10% chance of rain, 54 degrees. Monday, 61 degrees. Tuesday, 58 degrees with a 40% chance. And here we can see Wednesday, a 50% chance of rain, and 55 degrees with Thursday, 30 degrees with a 45% chance. For Athens tomorrow, 41 degrees, humidity very high, 91%, chance of rain only 50, so probably shouldn't worry about that too much, but definitely keep an umbrella in hand. Wind not a big problem there. Big temperature map tomorrow, 42 degrees in Cambridge, 40 in New Lexington, 41 in Athens, 44 in Marietta, 46 in Ripley, 39 in Columbus, 40 in Chillicothe, 40 in Jackson, and 41 in Newark. So overall, all in the 40s across the region. Here's the feels like for right now. Again, as we can see, Ohio, it feels like what the temperature is for tonight. 27 degrees, humidity 82%, calm winds, and again, like right now, winds not a big problem for us. And for the big temperature map for tonight, 24 in Cambridge, 25 in New Lexington, 27 in Athens, 29 in Ripley, 27 in Marietta, and 28 in New Martinsville. So again, some counties have a higher in the 20s and some have a low, but all in the 20s. And for your hour by hour, 8 p.m., 32 degrees, mostly cloudy, 10 p.m., 29 degrees, no chance of rain, and 12 a.m., 28 degrees and cold. So definitely if you go out, you're going to want to wear a very big jacket. For Athens tomorrow, 41 degrees, humidity, 91%, chance of rain, 50%, and again, winds, not too much of a problem. And as we can see in this front map, this is what's giving us all that cloud coverage, all the high pressure system moving out of the area, and we can see it keep moving out of the area, which will bring with us that dreary weather. 7-day forecast for this week: Friday 41 degrees, Saturday 40 degrees, Sunday 54 degrees, Monday 61 degrees, Tuesday 58 degrees, Wednesday 55 degrees, and Thursday 45 degrees. And as you can see, Friday will have a 50% chance, Tuesday a 40% chance, and back to the desk.
Thank you, Ben. And so post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a mental health condition that can develop after a person witnesses or experiences a traumatic event. It can be triggered by a life-threatening event like a car accident, a sexual assault, a natural disaster, or combat. In Texas, a new virtual reality treatment is being used to help veterans suffering from PTSD. Jason Allen reports.
Maybe they were on a crowded Iraqi street, or maybe in a rural Afghan village. But for as many as 30% of veterans, something happened they are hiding from to this day, and the Strong Mind system is designed to take them back there.
We're trying to help patients to confront and reprocess difficult emotional memories, but in a safe place.
The system Dr. Skip Rizzo has developed for 15 years is being introduced to clinicians at the North Texas VA this week, so they can use it with their post-traumatic stress patients. Traditionally, they ask patients to imagine the scenario they're troubled by. Strong Mind, as I found, puts them in the middle of it, what they could hear that day, what the weather was like.
And then we can, of course, blow stuff up. All of a sudden, things start to come back because they've been trying to avoid thinking about it or talking to anybody about it. And once you break that seal, you start to hear more and more and more.
It goes beyond what you see and what you could hear, even down to what you were holding that day, or even what you were feeling that day. Charitable organization Soldier Strong has donated Strong Mind to 13 VAs, including 3 in Texas. And that real-world use is expected to help develop the system even further.
And I think we can move the needle forward, not just for veterans, but for the whole civilian sector, and improve the lives of people that are constantly confronted by, high stress.
The Department of Veterans Affairs says up to 20% of vets who served in Iraq or Afghanistan have PTSD in any given year. The VA says about 30% of Vietnam vets have had PTSD in their lifetime.
And in sports, the Ohio women's basketball team continued a win streak last night over Akron. Find out who led the charge for the Bobcats when Newswatch returns. But first, here's a look at what's coming up later on your public television station.
The first blockbuster film revered as a cinematic masterpiece.
D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, he's trying to have an effect, and one of the things you feel most strongly is fear.
Exposed as a device for propaganda.
Used as a recruiting tool by the Klan.
One of the efforts was to try to get it shut down.
We want to see the birth of a nation.
People look at this film and they say, this is what we are fighting against.
Birth of a movement.
The president's reckless activities necessitated us to introduce articles of impeachment.
They've been trying to impeach me from day one.
The state of our union.
If Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences.
PBS NewsHour coverage.
The economy is booming and America is stronger than ever before.
The 2020 State of the Union address, Tuesday, February 4th, 9/8 Central.
All over the country, Americans are fed up and rebelling against the politicians and the power brokers, fighting against Citizens United.
We do not believe that corporations are people.
Voter suppression.
We will never stop battling.
Can ordinary voters halt what many see as politicians rigging elections? Can it work?
The heat wave in Chicago, one of the deadliest heat waves in U.S. history.
It looked like a war zone.
This was a tragedy that should have seared itself into the mind and memory of every American, but it didn't.
Racism and poverty determined who would live and die during the heat wave.
Not really about the heat. It's about a lack of compassion on a lot of parts.
The real story is, why were people in these neighborhoods dying?
Cooked. Survival by zip code.
Welcome back to Newswatch. I'm Joe Collins. The Ohio women's basketball team hosted the Akron Zips last night at the Convo and came away with a 70-57 victory. One of the keys to last night's victory was the performance in the rebound department. The Bobcats had been struggling to out-rebound their opponents this season, but that was not the case last night. The Bobcats ended with 40 rebounds compared to Akron's total of 34. Both teams struggled with turnovers as the two teams combined for a total of 41, with Akron having 25 of them. Another area the Bobcats were successful in was from the free throw line. The Bobcats had 27 attempts from the line and knocked in 21, good for a percentage of 77.8. For the Bobcats' so-called Big Three, it was business as usual. Amani Burke led the way with 20 points, Cece Hooks at 18 while picking up 9 rebounds, and Erica Johnson finished with 16. Peyton Geis at 8 from off the bench. The Bobcats are on the road on Saturday, where they will play at Central Michigan, who currently sits atop the MAC West with a perfect 8-0 conference record. Hardwood Heroes season is continuing to heat up as tonight's slate of games features a girls' game with major implications in the race for the TVC Ohio. The Vinton County Lady Vikings play host to the Nelsonville York Lady Buckeyes and a matchup between the two top seeds in the TVC Ohio. The Lady Buckeyes and Lady Vikings are at the top of the TVC Ohio as each team has just one loss in conference play. The two teams met earlier this season, which the Lady Buckeyes won by 1 point, 53-52. The winner of this game takes sole possession of the top spot in the conference. Now some of the other games going on tonight. In the other TVC Ohio matchup, Athens will play at Alexander. The Lady Spartans are currently 3.5 games behind top-seeded Nelsonville York. In the TVC Hawking, top-seeded Trimble will play host to South Gallia. The Lady Tomcats have been very impressive this year as they are 15-4 while having no juniors or seniors on the rosters. They currently only have a half-game lead on Belpre for the top spot. There was going to be a game between Federal Hawking and Eastern, but that game has been reported to be canceled. For coverage of these games, check out Hardwood Heroes on WOUB. Jason Preston, without a doubt, has been one of the best players on the Ohio men's basketball team this season. The sophomore guard from Orlando, Florida, is currently leading the nation in total assists with 158 in 21 games, good for an average of 7.5 per game, which makes him 4th in the nation in assists per game. Preston has been a huge reason as to why the Bobcats have had success on the offensive side of the ball. Coach Jeff Bowles is not the least bit surprised by Preston's ability to find the open man.
Probably should have about 50 more, on the tally mark, but he just, he's an unselfish kid, number one. He's a pass first, pass second type of guy. We need him to score. Sometimes he doesn't, look for his own shot, but, he just, that's who he is, and his vision is exceptional. His IQ is really good in the sense that he knows where guys are going to be or where they should be, and he's got to be a fun guy to play with.
Now, Taylor, Preston has been terrific all season long in dishing the ball to his Bobcat teammates.
Oh, absolutely. It's impressive to be first in the country in any stat. Congratulations to Preston. Thank you, Joe. A 7-year-old Girl Scout in West Virginia took cookie selling to a whole new level. The group says Rory Clark from Morgantown sold Girl Scout cookies in each of the 50 states. She used social media and her own website to reach customers across the country. Family and friends helped her along the way. Rory was inspired by a class project that encouraged students to receive a postcard from each state to achieve their goal. She used a map and checked off one state after another as she made progress, and Rory says it really made her day when she finally reached her goal. Scout Leader says she has sold close to 700 boxes of cookies. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Taylor Bruck. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.